This shouldn't be a shock to anybody. And it's 30 years of victims we got to get through. He's been terrorizing the general public for 30 years.
Sean Diddy Combs facing new allegations of sexual assault from a woman who claims the mogul raped her as payback for something she said about him and a possible connection to the death of another rapper. The accuser's lawyer is here with the details and the suit's shocking and disturbing claims. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. This latest lawsuit filed against Sean Diddy Combs has graphic claims of group sexual assault. So I want to start with that warning. Some of what you are going to hear is very disturbing. The woman, Ashley Parham, claims she was sexually assaulted by Sean Diddy Combs at a home in Contra Costa County, California, back in March of 2018. Parham isn't just suing Combs. She's also suing his former chief of staff, Christina Coram, who Combs has called his right hand in social media posts in the past. Combs has been adamant in responding to allegations in civil suits that he has never sexually assaulted or sex trafficked anyone. Right now, Combs is in jail in Brooklyn. He's being held without bail as he awaits trial on federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges. He has pleaded not guilty to those charges. Parham is also suing a man named Shane Pierce, a Jane Doe and 3 John Does. The suit includes a trigger warning. Parham claims one of those John Does that was there that night in March of 2018 actually claimed to be an undercover cop. We'll have more on that in just a bit. The suit claims Parham met Shane Pierce at a bar in February of 2018 and that he FaceTimed Sean Combs. The suit states, defendant Shane then showed plaintiff defendant Diddy on his video call, which plaintiff ignored, stating she was not impressed by him, knowing defendant Diddy because she believed defendant Diddy had something to do with the murder of rapper Tupac Shakur. The suit goes on to say defendant Diddy heard plaintiff's statement and made a remark that plaintiff would pay for her statement regarding Tupac and overall dismissal of defendant Diddy. Then the next month, Parham's suit says Shane Pierce invited her to his home. On March 23, 2018, defendant Shane invited plaintiff over to his home to assist him with his cancer medications because he stated he was weak and unable to open his medications. Then the suit claims Sean Combs arrived with Christina Coram, his bodyguard, an unidentified woman, and another man. The suit says defendant Diddy entered the home in a grand, ready-to-party manner. His grandiose entrance was so loud that the dogs upstairs began barking. The suit claims Combs threatened Parham with a knife. The suit states, defendant Diddy then began advancing toward where plaintiff was sitting on defendant Shane's bed with a knife and held it to the right side of plaintiff's face and threatened to give her a, quote, Glasgow smile in retaliation for her previous statements on the video call. It continues, defendant KK then made a threat to plaintiff that they could ship her off anywhere in the world and that she would never see her family or anyone she knew ever again. Parham claims Combs and Pierce removed her clothes as she was held at knife point, and then Combs took a bottle from a large fanny pack. Defendant Diddy, the suit says, then squirted a bottle of liquid on plaintiff, which placed her in fear that she was being squirted with a chemical substance like acid. Plaintiff soon realized the substance was an oil/lubricant. Plaintiff was squirted with this liquid substance over the entirety of her naked body. What Parham claims happened next is incredibly graphic and violent. The suit claims that Sean Combs sexually assaulted Parham with a television remote control and told her that he could take her and she would never be seen again. Before this happened, Parham claims that Combs and Coram had tried to force an IUD into her body. She also claims Combs forced her to take a pill that left her body feeling limp. I asked Ariel Mitchell, the lawyer representing Parham, about her claims.
There are multiple ways, including the syringe IUD assault, the television remote, and the several individuals who raped her anally and vaginally. And I think it's important in this situation because we have seen complaints that have been less gruesome, and those people were listed as a John or a Jane Doe. I think it's very important and very courageous and want people to acknowledge somebody to not only say these things happen to them, but say it with their actual name. Anybody can hide behind a pseudonym and say X, Y, and Z happened to me because nobody will ever know it's them. But for her to actually come forward with her real name about her real story, I think we should give some credibility for that alone.
Now, Parham claims she was sexually assaulted by the John Doe as well. And when it was over, her lawsuit claims that Combs, Pierce, Parham, and the John Doe went outside to smoke marijuana and cigarettes. The suit continues. Plaintiff then grabbed a knife from the kitchen and headed to the backyard where the defendants were smoking, as that was the only way to exit the premises onto the street. Plaintiff concealed the knife on her left side as she exited the apartment to the backyard area. The suit goes on. Plaintiff then sat down on a makeshift seat in the backyard when defendant Diddy noticed her presence and remarked that he was surprised she was able to walk because he had given her, quote, enough drugs to take out a horse. I want to thank Upside for sponsoring this episode of Crime Fix. Upside is a great free app that gets you cash back on things like food and gas. This is not a confusing rewards program. Upside will give you real money back that goes straight into your bank account. Just download the Upside app, click on an offer, and claim it, and pay with your credit or debit card as usual. Upside works at places like Shell, Exxon, 7-Eleven, Taco Bell, KFC, and even Chipotle. To find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on your screen and use our promo code CRIMEFIX to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's promo code CRIMEFIX for extra cash back. The suit then describes words being exchanged between Parham and Combs and her accusing him of raping her, and Combs telling her that it was consensual and that she was a sex worker. And it claims Combs even called his mother, Janice Combs, to persuade Parham not to report the assault. The suit says, defendant Diddy then called his mother in an effort to further convince plaintiff not to report her assault. Defendant Diddy's mother yelled at plaintiff to not hurt her son. Plaintiff told defendant Diddy's mother that her son had violently raped plaintiff. Defendant Diddy's mother, seemingly unfazed by the statement, then continued her demands with plaintiff to take the money being offered and not report the rape to law enforcement. Now, after this, the suit describes voices being raised and Parham actually raising the knife to Sean Combs, even grazing his abdomen with it. The suit claims the John Doe chased after her and a gun was actually fired at one point. The suit says defendant Doe 1, who had now caught up with plaintiff, advised plaintiff that he was an undercover cop. To this day, plaintiff is unsure of the truth or falsity of this statement. Here's Ariel Mitchell on that claim that the John Doe claimed to be an undercover officer.
The one thing that stood out to me through this whole thing was the security guard possibly being an undercover agent. It's not unreasonable to think maybe the government had placed a spy, if you will, into that agency. Similar, it makes me go back to thinking about RICO. The RICO laws were for mob bosses and mafiosos. So what did the government do? They sent undercover agents to infiltrate those mafia organizations and collect evidence from the inside. You know, I think we have no idea what the federal government has. If they actually did have federal agents posing undercover and working for Mr. Combs' administration and rising up in that administration, we have no idea what they know, and we won't know until trial time. So I think, you know, while you thought that part out for you, I thought about that as well. But again, we're in a situation where we need to identify those people.
Now, we have no way to know whether there was actually an undercover police officer there that night. No way. But we do know that a neighbor called 911 that night because of noise. The suit says plaintiff informed the neighbor that it was Sean Combs who had raped her and shot at them, but the neighbor was unaware who defendant Diddy was. Shortly thereafter, a sheriff from the Contra Costa Sheriff's Department arrived at the neighbor's home. Plaintiff told the sheriff she had been violently gang raped by defendant Diddy and others, and that she did not have her clothes, phone, purse, car keys, or cell phone. Now, I've contacted the Contra Costa Sheriff's Office about the report made by Ashley Parham. A spokesperson told me in an email, a report was taken on March 23, 2018. We take these cases seriously, and detectives thoroughly investigated the accusations. It was later determined the claims were unfounded. Now, I've actually requested a copy of that report from the sheriff's office. Ariel Mitchell said she has tried to request that report as well.
So I have paperwork from her, which is actually a document from the police telling her, the victim, that she could not get a copy of her own police report. It says this record is not subject to public disclosure. And I thought that was weird because I've never heard of a victim who made a report who couldn't get a copy of their own report. Mm-hmm. After we had spoken, they sent me an email saying that the only way they will release the records to me was if I sent them a civil subpoena. actually filed the case, I have subpoena power, and I will subpoena those records now.
Now, the suit claims that Ashley Parham contacted her doctor 3 days after the alleged assault because she was concerned that she may have contracted an STD. Ariel Mitchell says Parham also went to the ER and had a rape kit performed the following month.
The rape kit was done, I believe, about 2.5 weeks after. So the rape kit didn't show anything. They actually did a X-ray and I believe an ultrasound while she was in the hospital as well. So what most people know about the vagina and anus is they do rapidly heal themselves. So the fact that it was that 2 to 3 week delay in between her actually going to the hospital. My issue was if the police were there and you're telling me, if I'm a police officer and somebody's telling me they've been violently gang raped, I don't care who they're saying it's by. The number one thing I'm going to do is call for backup. I'm going to call for an ambulance, emergency services, or I would myself take you to the hospital. I wouldn't just leave you there. So my first issue is why the Contra Costa Sheriff's Department, whoever their responding officer, didn't take her or didn't get any emergency services, because had he done that, the evidence would have been preserved. So there's, I feel like I have a botched police investigation. And then I had somebody who is in shock from a violent gang rape. And even, I think it's a reasonable time because it's people who never get a rape kit done and they just feel shame and they never even try to do anything. She contacted her doctor 3 days after the attack. She said, she got concerned that maybe she had an STD. She was really trying to even come to terms with what had happened to her. And it's like anybody, if this had happened to you, how long would it take you to do whatever the heck you're saying? How would you feel? How would you react? And even right now, you have no idea how you would feel or react because you're not in that situation. You're at home, safe, and you're not facing this type of threat.
Now, the suit says officers from another police department were called to the hospital to take a report while that rape kit was actually being performed. At that time, Parham didn't mention Sean Combs' name, according to the suit. I contacted that department to see what happened with that report. At the time of this recording, I have not yet heard back. I also asked Ariel Mitchell about Parham's claim that Combs told her he assaulted her because of what she had said about the murder of Tupac Shakur.
To me, it wasn't far-fetched. I deal with a lot of celebrities on both sides, be them clients that I represent and be them defendants who I sue against. And one thing about all of them in common is ego. They're all egomaniacs. They're all an egomaniac. That's their main affliction, is their ego. And it did not surprise me. It actually seemed more so than not to be the case, because I know when we're talking about people, especially when you start getting to that A plus level celebrity status, these people have some of the largest egos that you could ever encounter. You can't even fathom the level of ego that they have. So imagine you have defendant Pierce on the phone showing off, how many times has he probably done this parlor trick where he calls Diddy, and Diddy's on the phone and everybody's like, oh my God, it's Diddy on the phone. I mean, imagine yourself, you're at a random bar and they get Diddy on the phone and he's on a FaceTime video. What is going to be the general consensus of the people at that bar? It's going to be jubilation. Oh my God, most people have never even been near a celebrity. So you have that aspect of it all. And then imagine when you're when somebody like Mr. Combs is doing this. He's doing it for attention himself. He enjoys the praise. He enjoys the adoration. All of these A-list celebrities, they feed off their fans. It's like energy they're getting from them. So now you have somebody who is not only not entertained by your presence, is dissing you. Somebody dissed me, Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Diddy did, he got a whole song about it. The D, the I, the D, the D, the Y, the D, the I, the D is Diddy. That spells Diddy did. Are we going to play like we don't know his songs? Are we not going to look how everybody's doing these look backs into all these interviews where he was looking us in our face and telling us about his parties would get him arrested and about his deviant behavior for years. This isn't a secret. This shouldn't be a shock to anybody. And it's 30 years of victims we got to get through. He's been terrorizing the general public for 30 years.
Now, Mitchell says her client felt safe coming forward with Combs behind bars as he awaits trial on federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges, but recently became fearful when Combs filed an appeal asking for bail yet again.
Actually, last week when Mr. Combs was still subject to his another bail hearing, she did reach out. We had a conversation about her being concerned that he got out and how, moving forward with her complaint and, what her safety would look like in a world where he was granted bail. I assured her that I see no avenue in any scenario where he's going to be granted bail. They can keep wasting. I think free legal advice from Mr. Combs would be to stop wasting your money on bail hearings. You're not going to get it. Focus, if you want to focus on a case, focus on not only your criminal case, but all these civil cases that you have. Your efforts and your money are better spent there. But essentially, even when we went there and went to the police and tried to get these reports, and now having to do them through civil subpoena power, that's just what we're left with, and that's fine with me. I'm just ready to get the ball rolling on this. I have other supporting documents that I've received, including medical records and releases from doctors and doctors' notes and other things of that nature that supports everything that my client has said and alleged in her complaint.
This latest suit is now one of more than a dozen civil suits that Sean Combs is facing, accusing him of sexual assault. The first came from Combs' ex, Cassie Ventura, nearly a year ago. Combs settled that lawsuit the next day. So that is the only one of the civil suits that Combs has actually settled. Ventura is victim one in the federal indictment charging Combs with sex trafficking and racketeering. Ashley Parham is suing Sean Combs for $50 million, but Ariel Mitchell says her client is also open to talking to federal investigators.
My client would love to testify in front of a federal grand jury, or even in a grand jury indictment. She would love to explain her story to the federal government because, to my understanding, there are supersedes indictments coming down, just like I suspected, which means that more victims will be added as the feds are vetting through these the victims, and most of the victims are coming by way of lawsuit, and their lawsuit has supporting information and documents, which then the federal government then reaches out to them and has an interview with them and reviews their documents and then determines whether or not there is enough that would meet the very high burden of reasonable doubt. So civil court, I try to explain this to people all the time. A victim of a crime only has one act, civil court. That's it. So for anybody thinking or saying, why did they go to the police? Why they always after money? All the other crap you guys always are saying. No, if you're a victim of a crime, your only avenue is civil court. Now, can you tell the police? Can you report the crime to the police? Of course, but you have zero control over that. None. You don't have any control over the investigation. You have no control over whether the state prosecutor will accept to prosecute the case. You have no control even if they do decide if they take it to trial, or even if they decide to give that person a plea bargain. You have zero input in that process. Your only input is in civil court. And civil court, of course, is for money. So it's not about, well, why do all the victims always go for money or go to civil court? That's their only avenue.
Again, Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to the crimes alleged in the federal case. His trial is currently scheduled for May of 2025, but many people think that date may be pushed back because more charges could be coming, according to federal prosecutors. And Combs' lawyers have maintained he has never sexually assaulted or trafficked anyone. That has been stated in regard to these civil lawsuits. And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.